Have you ever been talking to somebody about Idaho and they say something that makes you go, wait, what? I've never heard that, or no, I know that's wrong. It happens all of the time because for a long time, Idaho was pretty unknown. It wasn't until the early 90s during the Ruby Ridge incident that Idaho really came on the scene, and then the movie Napoleon Dynamite in the early 2000s.
Can you bring me my chapstick?
No, Napoleon.
But my lips hurt real bad.
But with that, you really don't understand what Idaho is like. And even with all the information out there, people still get things very wrong. So today, I'm going to cover the 10 things that people get very wrong about the state. And hopefully, after this video, you'll have a much better understanding of what Idaho is really like. Hello and welcome to another episode of Living Life in North Idaho. My name is Trent and I've lived in this area for 30 years. If you're interested in knowing more about what it's like living, eating, working, playing, and buying real estate here in Idaho, then this is the channel for you. Tap the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so every time I come out with a new video, you're getting notified. And guys, every single day I'm getting calls, texts, and emails from people just like you that have been watching the channel and they need more information about what it's really like living here to decide if this is the right place for them, or they've decided, no, I know Idaho's the right place for me, and they just need some people to help make that happen for them. That's why my team and I are here. So if this is you, reach out day, nights, weekends at the phone number or email address listed below. Doesn't matter when you call us. We love helping people get moved to this awesome place. All right, so let's dive into these 10 things that people get very wrong about Idaho. And make sure you watch to number 10 because that one I think is going to surprise a lot of people. All right, so the first thing that people get very wrong about Idaho, they believe everyone is very religious. I've actually had people call and ask and say, Trent, I don't go to church. Am I going to be okay to live in Idaho? Yes, you're going to be totally fine living in Idaho. And I understand why people have that view. If you visit here, you're going to see a lot of churches. If you move here within a short period of time, you're probably going to have somebody coming to your door and wanting to talk about God. And that's okay. There are people here that go to church and they are strong believers in their religion, but it doesn't mean you have to be religious. And it doesn't mean everyone is religious. A lot of people are very respectful about your beliefs as long as you're just upfront and say, look, that's not for me. Most people are going to say that's fine. And if they're pushy, well, that's permission to be pushy back. So nope, you don't have to be religious to live here. And no, not everyone is religious. Number 2 on the list, Idaho is anti-government. This is absolutely not true. Now, I understand how people are getting this impression because there's a guy by the name of Ammon Bundy that moved here that's kind of having a standoff with law enforcement. And thankfully, our law enforcement nowadays is a lot smarter than they were back in the 90s, so they're not going to recreate a Ruby Ridge situation. But still, it looks like Idaho is okay with it, and we're definitely not. Idahoans love the law, they love order, and they love justice. What they don't love is government overreach, government corruption, ultimately tyranny. So no, Idaho is not anti-government, they're anti-tyranny. All right, the third thing that people get very wrong about Idaho, and you've probably heard this and you might even believe it, but it's not true. They believe Idaho is just potatoes everywhere, potato fields everywhere. Now, when I was growing up, we did have a potato field next to my house, but it is no longer a potato field. And honestly, the vast majority of the potatoes that are grown are in southern Idaho, in a certain section in southern Idaho. It's not everywhere. It is our biggest commodity, absolutely. It's not grown everywhere. And I think that kind of got spread because McDonald's gets their potatoes from Idaho. It's called the Russet Burbank. It's a special potato where they can do their long fries. It has the most minimal blemishes on it. But I will tell you this, you might not know this. Do not live next to where they grow these Russet Burbanks. These have been modified to be able to spray really toxic chemicals on them, and they actually have to keep them in a container to off-gas for several weeks because it is so toxic. Now, I only tell you that because it can cause issues, and they do grow them in parts of Idaho. So definitely talk to your realtor about that, or if it's us, ask us about that. Again, here in North Idaho, you really don't have to worry about it. It's down in southern Idaho But yeah, not true. Potatoes are not grown absolutely everywhere in Idaho, just certain parts. All right, the fourth thing that people get very wrong about Idaho, and it's definitely a deserved reputation, but here to clear it up, they believe Idaho is a very racist state. Now, I just made a video about this, clearing up why that's not true, what the backstory is, and what the true story behind Idahoans and having white supremacists here in the 90s and early 2000s. But no, absolutely not. Idaho is not a very racist state. We have a lot of people that move here from bigger cities and tell us that actually their experience in Idaho has been better than being in a larger city, that actually racism is a bigger deal in a larger city than it is here in Idaho. I love hearing that because I don't want to be known as having a racist hometown. No, thank you. But yes, not true. Idaho is not very racist. Now, we'll preface, the smaller the town you go into, the more likely you're going to run into that kind of ignorance, but you're going to find that everywhere. So just because you have that doesn't mean the whole state is racist. It just means ignorance exists. Now, the fifth thing that people get very wrong about Idaho, this has been becoming more of a common misunderstanding because of the things that have happened over the last few years. They believe that you have to be a Republican to live in Idaho. Now, I know a lot of locals wish that were true, but no, it's not true. We have a healthy mix of Republican, Democrat, independent, libertarians, and that's good, right? We don't want just one way of thinking. Being able to have dialogue, have different opinions, and differ from each other, that is the American way. And so, yes, there is a lot of Republicans, and you're definitely going to find it easier to be a Republican and make friends here if you're a Republican, but no, you don't have to be a Republican to live in Idaho. Now, number 6, this is mostly for people who've never visited the state and haven't really done their research. They believe that it doesn't really matter where you live in Idaho, it's all pretty much the same. They're probably thinking it's all potato fields, but no, the state of Idaho is very, very different depending on where you are. In North Idaho, you are in the inland Northwest. You have big mountains, you have a ton of lakes, you have trees, pine trees, forests, you have fields. You head down towards Boise and you start getting more rolling hills, farmland. You get into Boise, that's high mountain desert. And there's actually a place in Idaho that looks like you're on a different planet. It almost looks like a moon planet or something. It is so very different. So no, Idaho is very different depending on where you are. It's not a wide state up north towards the top. It takes about 2 hours to get across, but you head to southern Idaho and it's much more vast. So if you're planning on moving to Idaho and you think it doesn't really matter if I live in North Idaho, Southern Idaho, it absolutely does. You definitely want to give us a call so we can help you figure out what is going to be the best place for you, because it is not the same. All right, the 7th thing that people get very wrong about Idaho, and I wish this was still true, but it's not, you can find really cheap property here in Idaho. Now, sure, if you're comparing it to San Francisco or New York or LA, absolutely, it's really cheap. But when you look at what it used to be, it's not cheap anymore. My first home in 2009 was $165,000. That home now is going for about $400,000. So yes, in the last few years, prices have skyrocketed just like they have in a lot of places. Now, it is possible to find some affordable property if you're willing to live way outside of town and in places that most people wouldn't want to live. And I will say places like Lewiston, Idaho, you can still find affordable property there compared to a lot of the other places, but it's nothing like it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Prices have really gone up, put quite a squeeze on who can live here, unfortunately, but that is the nature of the beast. Now, number 8, this probably comes from the movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Over there, that creek, man, I found a couple of soaps on the Arrowhead.
But it's not true. They believe that Idaho is pretty much all just rural small towns. Nope, that's absolutely not true. Now, yes, we do have a lot of rural small towns, but it's not all like that. You come into Coeur d'Alene, Hayden, Post Falls, you'll see that it is quite a bustling, growing city. There's downtowns. You can go up into Sandpoint. That's a really nice town. It's not all rural. Go down to Boise and you'll definitely see that is a major city down there. There's about 800,000, 850,000 people that live in the Treasure Valley. You go over to Twin Falls, Idaho Falls. No, these are not just tiny little farm towns. These are real towns. So I know Napoleon Dynamite made it seem like it's all just this rural. It's such a funny movie. I got to watch that again. But yeah, it's not like they display in Napoleon Dynamite. There are real cities and towns here. Now, the night thing people get very wrong about Idaho. They believe there's nothing to do. Now, I understand if you're living in a major city and you throw a rock and you can hit a shopping center, a restaurant, and a concert hall, you might think Idaho is boring. But Idaho, there's definitely things to do, especially if you're an outdoors lover. There's tons of trails up in the mountains to go dirt biking and side-by-siding and hiking. Tons of lakes to fish and swim in or do boating sports. You got all kinds of places to explore. Outdoor paradise, really. And if you live in North Idaho, you want to go to a comedy club, you want to go see a major concert, go to a casino, you can just go right over into Spokane, which is about 30 minutes away, and you have all that stuff. If you live in Boise, all of that stuff is down there. You have awesome college football, comedy clubs, concerts, bunch of restaurants, tons of stuff to do. So no, it's not a major city like in New York, but there is definitely plenty of stuff to do. Now, the last thing on our list of the things that people get very wrong about Idaho, number 10, they believe outsiders are not welcomed. Now, Idaho definitely has that reputation because there are a lot of bumper stickers that say things like that. But the truth is, most everyone that lives in Idaho was once living somewhere else. It's not necessarily a bad thing that we have that reputation because it keeps the type of people that would want to come and change Idaho out of it, but it also has probably prevented some really great people from moving here. So I will tell you, there are some people that are going to put those bumper stickers on. You might have that impression, but I promise you, if you move here, if you're a good person and you care about other people and you just don't try to be a radical with your beliefs, you're going to fit in just fine. So those are the 10 biggest things people get wrong about Idaho. Let me know in the comments if any of these things you had wrong as well. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. And if you are serious about getting moved to Idaho, reach out with a phone call, text, or email. Day, nights, weekends, it does not matter. Until the next one, I will see you later.